聞こえる波音響いてた泣き出しそうな空私を包んだ高鳴る心音重なる君の影何気ない毎日が永遠にも燃えた夢見た世界は真っ白なキャンバスで魔法をかけるように未来を描いてゆく優しい嘘でも気持ちは揺れるの変わらない今でも君のこと思うよ揺れる指先に慣れた景色さえかき消されそうなこと素直になれずにいた色のない世界は無機質なモノクロで繋いだ心さえ忘れてしまうのかな優しい嘘でも気持ちは揺れるの終わらない季節に私はまだ泣いてるあの日の約束覚えて今さか強がるどこかを君は少し笑った優しい嘘でも気持ちは揺れるの変わらない今でも君のこと思うよからばない道選んでも私が歌うよさよならありがとう振り向かずに歩くよさよなら
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sean. How you doing today? Okay, yeah. Hey, I want to thank. It's been a long weekend. Once again, I want to thank Masha Sue for letting me use her videos for opening thing here. It's awful nice of her to allow me to do that. It's been a long weekend, and a lot's happened. There's been a lot of political news. There's been a lot of news. There's been a lot of good stuff. I'll tell you, I've been working in the hospitality business now for a little over 10 years. And I have never seen months back to back to back like we're experiencing right now. The pandemic, COVID, people are really tired of being cooped up. They want to get out. We are having month to month crowds that, while they are larger, definitely, than what they were last year and the year before, and considering the year before that, we're still recovering from Hurricane Michael, this has been our best year since in the past 3 years. This part of the country got hit 3 years ago by Hurricane Michael. And that took over a year to get things back into pace. Because remember, the Democrats in Congress, they took 4 months before they allocated emergency funds to us. And the largest reason of that, why, is because this is a very conservative and Republican stronghold. And they started adding a bunch of crap to the relief bill that had nothing to do with relief. And the fact that there was a military base that was involved, a couple of military bases, Navy, Air Force, and Army. The Democrats were real assholes. I'm just put it real plain and simple. They put politics over people's lives. Then, of course, we all got hit by the pandemic. And that locked everybody down, even with DeSantis opening, not really locking Florida down, but it locked down other states. And so we didn't get a lot of the outside visitors that we normally get and have been getting. People from Indiana, people from Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, and not to mention Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, West Virginia. Yeah, we see a lot of people, and then even the international. It's not unusual for us to get in people from Germany, England, Ireland. We do get a lot of visitors from there, from Europe. And there's been times where my basic understanding and ability to talk in German has come in handy. And I say basic, I mean very basic, but enough to get me through it. So this year, it's been a butt kicker. A lot of hours being spent at work. And when at work, I've brought home my lunch more times than I've ate my lunch. And we're enjoying it. It's backbreaking while you're there, but once you get home and once we start seeing things happen, and got the extra padding on the cash sitting in the bank account, and bonuses being handed out. Yeah, Sean, I agree with you 100%. You can't, but that's how they do it. They've been doing that since before I got involved in politics in 1978. That's the way Democrats and Republicans get their pet projects done, is add them to bills that have absolutely nothing to do, or like the Democrats added funding for police into this monstrosity of a bill that that the Republicans were against, and then claim, as Psaki did, that Republicans are against funding cops because they voted against this bill. It's unfortunate that the funding for the police were in that bill, but that bill is such a mess, such a giveaway, such a pork barrel project that the Republicans had no choice but to vote against it. It was an absolutely horrible bill. And the Republicans would have been blasted by their base if they had voted for it. So, they were you're at a lose-lose no matter what you do. You're going to get claimed to be anti-police if you vote against it, and you're going to be pro-pork, pro-left-wing ideology if you vote for it. So, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And in the current climate, the Democrats can do no wrong and the Republicans can do no right. At least according to the media, if you listen to them. So, that's just the way it's got to go. That's just the way you got to play it out. Okay. There's a lot of good things that happened this weekend, too. There really is. One of my favorite videos of the week happened this weekend, or at least I saw it this weekend, and I just had it and lost it. Where'd it go? Here we go. Here it is. This is one of my favorite. Oh, hey, Mash, how you doing? Good morning. Well, I thought I found you on that new website. The avatar wasn't the same that I'm used to seeing. Any of the avatars I'm used to seeing you in, but let's see here. This here is something that I saw this weekend, and I had to chuckle. And I had to chuckle so much that I just watched it 3 or 4 times. And Mash, I am doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you for asking. It's been a good day. I was up before the wife left for work. Had my cup of coffee in me before she left to work. And then I was able to sit down and take care of some other stuff. This weekend was a good weekend because I found some things to laugh at. And this is one of them. Let me make this screen large. Remember this guy right here. This is a short video, only 12 seconds. Okay. This guy just threw something at the cops. And the guy next to him got hit with a beanbag. Boom and boom. Throw, beanbag. Oh, I love it. It's not as good. I saw another video this weekend that I really enjoyed. One of the female protesters come up to the cops with a can of silly string. Oh, Mash, I tell you, I couldn't find one to match my body. But then, you know, those kind of places, they want to make people look, I think they want to make people look a lot better, but they didn't have anybody shaped like an orange. But this woman, she come up with a can of silly string, and all the cops saw that was a can pointed at her, at the cop. Well, just as she let loose, so did he, but he let loose with the beanbag. And, well, let's just say that she was not going to be enjoying any companionship that evening in a relaxing, non-painful manner. And I had no problem with watching that one. If you're stupid enough to aim a can, which especially since the people have been macing everybody at a cop, you're going to expect to get something, some sort of a reaction, and it's not going to be the reaction. It's not going to be the reaction that you want to see. I didn't see an orange avatar there. That was one of the good things I saw this weekend. Let's see here. There's another one I had that was, I got a good laugh at. Where did it get off to? Oh, fruit avatar. Okay. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time searching around on that last night because I was actually using my phone to do it. And okay, here's one of the things that made me that I got a little kick out. Like I said, it's been a few days since I've done anything, since I've streamed. So there's been quite a lot that happened. And a person that we all know, Fat Pat. Well, there's Fat Pat Little One, born on the 15th. And welcome to the world, little guy. May it be a good world for you. That I love seeing pictures of newborns, of new babies. They're always welcome. That it's hope for all of us that the world is going to get better, or there are going to be things coming up that make us that could lead the world into be a better place. Let's just leave it at that. And I'm going to be going through the happy things here first because, well, it's still early. Oh, is that why the mobile I was having problems with it? Okay. One thing here I haven't done this yet. As everybody knows, I try to remember to always post the link. If you want to come online and agree, disagree, or just talk, have at it. Now, this audio here, or this video, this was, I like this because, well, if you didn't see it, you should, and you are now.
What's your name?
Isaac.
Isaac. What do you rate me out of 10?
I'm happily married. They would not rate you. So.
Okay, so if you
Right there, boom. What's it do first thing? Yep, I'm a married man. Leave me alone.
had to rate me if you didn't have a wife, come on.
I'd be a 1. It's a little desperate, that's why. So the most important person in my life is my wife. So she's number 1.
Thank you. Bless.
Ah, I love that. Was that a burn? Yeah. But the man, he wasn't falling for it, and he let her know he wasn't falling for it. And I thought that I loved that video. Just another short clip that I had to smile at. And I wanted to share it before we got into some uglier things. Things that, well, it takes me from the happy shroom to, well, this little nuclear cloud. Because it's always been those things. So the English papers got a little, one of them did at least, had a little bit of issue here. Shocking new one-day record as 430 boat illegals flood in the UK. 430. Wow, in one day. And they're shocked by that. They're absolutely shocked by just 430. I would be happy if it was only 430. As we are having, and let me pull up these numbers again so that I'm not being wrong. Yeah, you're right, Sean. That is just the ones caught or saw. In the first 5 months of fiscal 2021, Custom Borders Protection has encountered 322,940. In January alone, 64,858. And as Sean so aptly pointed out, that's just the ones we saw. That's just the ones we caught. That is a problem. That is a serious problem. Then we turn around, and I wish there was a quicker way to do this, but there's not. Okay, I don't think we would get away doing that. I think that'd be a violation of the Geneva rights. That world court, I think, would kill us. This is Del Rio, Texas. Now they're actually allowing families to come in and trying to keep out non-families. But the problem is what they're calling families is just anybody with a kid in tow. They're not checking to see if that's their kid or not. It's just a kid being in tow. That's all that matters. Meanwhile, our northern neighbor, Canada. Oh, Canada, you are such wonderful. Canada made an announcement this weekend. Canada will finally open its borders, first to Americans beginning August 9th. Yeah, were y'all aware that Canadian borders were closed? There were no admittance to Americans? 16 months since an American's been allowed to enter Canada. Beginning August 9th, fully vaccinated citizens and permanent residents of the United States currently residing in the U.S. will be permitted to enter Canada. Non-essential travel has been banned since March 2020. And why did they do that? To mitigate the spread of COVID-19. International travelers may be allowed to enter Canada starting September 7th, provided that the COVID-19 epidemiology remains favorable. Entry to Canada will continue to be prohibited for all foreign travelers who are not fully vaccinated. Boy, it must be nice. Canada is doing the right thing. If you're not fully vaccinated, and you can prove you're fully vaccinated, we're not letting you in the border. But we're letting every Tom, Dick, and Juan, Maria, and Carlos from Mexico to cross our borders. And if they cross illegally, they're not being shipped back. They're being put and released into the United States. Show up to court if you want on this day, and then go ahead and go and get released into the public. They're being bussed across the country and dropped off in other cities. All fully vaccinated American citizens and permanent must receive the full series of vaccines or combination accepted by the Canadian government at least 14 days prior to entering Canada. That's really good news. This is all great news. Canada's been doing things right, at least as far as immigration goes during this time period. And they're opening up their borders to foreigners who have been vaccinated and can prove it. And, I'm not a fan of the idea of vaccine passports within our country, but I have no problem with it being as a requirement to get into the country. But the White House declined Monday to commit to reopening its northern border to Canadians, though. We're continuing to review our travel restrictions, and any decisions about reopening travel will be guided by our public health and medical experts, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters. We take this incredibly seriously, but we look and are guided by our own medical experts. I wouldn't look at it through a reciprocal intention. Okay. Why are we having tougher standards at a first world country at our northern border than we do at our southern border on a third world country? We're second world country at best, allowing third world people to cross through it to our country. Why? What in the world are we doing? What is this White House doing? They're allowing everybody to come in, everybody and anybody come through the southern border if they cross illegally. They're not shipping them back. They're not patrolling the border correctly. We've got massive illegal immigration through the southern border. And the Democrats are saying, come on in. We'll give you money. We'll give you Medicare. We'll give you your shots. We'll give you everything you want. But the northern border, sorry, no, we can't let you in. Yeah, we know you're going to let our people in there, but now we don't know about letting you people come down here. You people are dirty up there. What the hell? Why are we doing this kind of stupidity? And this is the stupidity that makes me the angry shroom. The angry old man yelling at the sky. Because the media hasn't pointed this out. Have you seen anybody, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, anybody bringing up this double standard? One for the northern border and one for the southern border. And that's a reverse double standard. Should there be a double standard? Yes. The laxer standard at the northern border. The stricter standard at the southern border. But that's not the way these idiots in D.C. are running it. That's not the way the Democrats are doing this. This is just plain wrong. How can you say you're taking this incredibly serious when you're not enforcing this same policy at the southern border? What kind of nonsense is this? Tell me, can somebody explain to me why we are being so strict at the northern border and so lax at the southern border? Especially when we know that the people crossing from the northern border are probably 99% more likely to follow our laws. Sure, we've got the people. Yeah, there are people that try to sneak across the northern border, terrorists and such. And quite a few of them, they've been caught by some very alert agents at the border. But what are we doing at our southern border? How are we doing anything? This is just, it's craziness. It is just pure craziness. We spend more money per person on illegals than we do on our own citizens. It's nuts. It's craziness. It's wrong. And I can't believe that I'm the first person to notice this. As soon as I read this article on what was going on at the Canadian border and what Canada was doing, I immediately thought of what's going on at the southern border. You can't tell me these news reporters don't know this is going on. And I haven't seen it asked of Psaki at any of the press briefings. This is something that needs to be looked at. It really and truly does. But anyway, I'm going to get off of immigration here for a minute. Technology. Oh, God, I love technology. Now, I graduated high school in 1978. By the time I graduated, I've said this before, I'd already got my FCC license. Had already spent a year and a half working at a television station. A year of that as an intern, and this is the old-fashioned word for intern, old-fashioned meaning I wasn't being paid. I was doing a lot of the scut work, and the thing about it was they then hired me. I learned a lot. I'd also been through 2 years of technical school on radio and television broadcasting and journalism. I started working VCRs. Morning, Neil. I started working with VCRs and taping football games when I was in middle school. I taped the middle school football games and basketball games for the coaches to use. When I got in high school, I was doing it for the high school team, recording their games. I'd be the only person up in the press box, just recording the games from that angle up there. And then after every game, I gave the videotape to the coach, and then they used it the following week. So yeah, it was. I've been involved in technology a long time. I built a television from junkyard parts when I was in middle school. So I love technology. I'm an avid user of technology. You're exactly right, Sean. Intern, your pay is the experience you get. Well, the first part of that, the pay I got was get the experiences I got working in a real television station and a real radio station. And neither one were automated at the time. One of the stations I worked at for a very short period was an automated station. And that was probably one of the most, for me at that time, a very boring job. Because all you did was swap out cassettes. The computers did everything else. But the reason why I'm bringing all that up, my own experiences with technology and what a lover of technology I am, is I have always refused to allow anything permanently connected to the internet in my home. I've always refused to let it in. I don't have Siri or Google Plus or Alexa or any of that stuff activated on my phones, on my computers. I don't have an Alexis in my house because anything that can respond to your voice, hey Google, and it responds to that, that means it has to be listening to you 24/7, listening for that command. Well, there was very interesting development this weekend. And this is something else that has not gotten very much play out there. At least not that I've seen. The Sun US all ears. Google admits employees listen to conversations recorded by Google Assistant even without the user's Hey Google trigger. Yeah. That is I mean, I knew this was happening. Anytime you have people given the opportunity to spy on another person, they're going to do it. They are going to do it. Peeping Toms aren't just that dirty old man hoping to see you naked, or that dirty old woman hoping to see some guy naked. Now, they've thrown in the word allegedly here, but the tech giant made the admission during a closed-door meeting with the Indian government officials. This needs to be, next time Google is, Alphabet and Google are up there before the Senate, this needs to be brought up. According to a report, though, Google has attempted to clarify the claims. Really? A Google rep said snippets recorded before the "Hey Google" command are not saved. I don't believe that one second. Sources told India Today the company admitted that its AI assistant will at times record audio on a smartphone or smart speaker, even when it hasn't been summoned. Now, I don't know who all remembers this, but a couple years ago, the police were trying to solve a murder. And they had the woman who was murdered had one of these Alexis, "Hey Google" things in the room that she was killed in. And the police, not being dummies, they went to try to get the recordings. And I'm going to say whichever company, because I don't remember exactly which one it was. They admitted that they did it at times, that they did record at times what happened, but they couldn't. They said that they didn't have anything for that murder. The police went and got warrants, and that's the last of my memory goes on. Was the police were trying to get warrants to force the company to release all audio recordings they had from that particular device. So yeah, I mean, I've got no doubt that this is happening. Google clarified how the assistant works in a statement to Android Authority. In standby mode, the device processes short snippets of audio, a few seconds, to detect an activation, like when you said, "Hey Google." If no activation is detected, then these snippets won't be sent or saved to Google. I don't believe it. To be honest, I don't believe it. The statement also noted that assistant detects this wake word. The recording can include a few seconds before you activate your assistant to catch your request at the right time. Google has previously admitted their employees listen to short recordings to improve language comprehension in its products. Did you know that? I knew it was happening. At least I've always suspected it was happening. But it's downplayed. As part of our work to develop speech technology for more languages, we partner with language experts around the world who can understand the nuances and accents of a specific language, they explained in 2019. These language experts review and transcribe a small set of queries. Yeah, really. Why not go and say, set up a recording device at a mall or some other place, a shopping center, an open air market with the big banner, and ask people to either volunteer or pay people, a couple $3 to read a set statement into your device so that you're now picking up the stuff, the accents, and everything else that you want. And you're doing it above board. You're not secretly recording people in their homes. And, I have to wonder if this is, Google has since changed its policies requiring home or nest users to opt into. Is it really they have to opt in, or is it they have to opt out? Do you have to uncheck the box? Is it automatically checked? That's interesting, isn't it? Have you checked your Google to make certain that you're not being recorded? All your Google activity can be found in the My Activities section of your Google account. And there you'll find everything from your Google Maps. Yeah, this is something else. Did you know that Google, if you've given it access to your location information, they map every place you go. They map every place you've been. Every now and again, I'll get when I'll forget to shut it off, I'll get a email from Google that shows a map of every place I've been that month. This isn't good news. If you've previously opted into Google saving your audio or voice commands, you can easily stop it from doing so, but it'll cause the voice searching with Google Assistant to stop working until it's re-enabled. So right there it tells you how to do it. On a PC, access the feature by clicking on the settings bar. From there, hit the activity. Google will tell you if you're sure. But what about on your cell phone, your tablet? Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind that Google is listening to you and everything you say, or can be listening to you and everything you say the whole time, all day long, tracking where you're going, then hey, just leave it alone. Don't worry about it. I don't even like it when my wife asks me where I've been all day. What are you doing? Thinking I'm going somewhere I shouldn't be going? You spying on me? I mean, I go home. I'm one of these people that I leave the house to go to work. I leave work and go home. Maybe stop by the bank or Walmart or Publix or Winn-Dixie to pick things up, to pick something up or something like that. But other than that, my week is pretty, it's pretty mundane. It's pretty routine. And I'm not out for the excitement like I was 30 years ago when I was 30 or 20 years ago when I was 40. I'm not out for that type of excitement. Well, Sean, they may actually pay you so that they can finance, so they can work on their stuff to acknowledge and work with your speech. I've got a lot of apps on my. There are some apps though that you've got no choice. If you want to use the app, you have to give it access. Some of these apps want more access than what they actually need, which is always a big concern to me. But yeah, I mean, well, morning, Becca. Nice to see you. Boy, I got Becca here. I've got Masha Sue here. Neil, Sean. This is getting to be a nice little crowd. I like it. I like it. Let's see. Let me refresh this screen, see what's going on here. Oh, okay. So Master Sue must have had to leave. Oh well. I don't blame her. This show is kind of boring sometimes for everybody but me. Oh, where? Okay, here it is. How did I unmute myself there? I'm sorry about that. Oh. And we got another person that how many people actually believe the government or a government employee, especially one out of this administration, when they tell you something? Especially when it's something that that this administration really, 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 really likes and wants to push. I know I don't. Oh, I know, Sean. I know. I appreciate you guys coming back. I really do. Mr. Cardona. He is, quote unquote, retreats from making critical race theory part of new school grants. Now, I don't believe that for a second, but that's beside the point. By the way, he's the Education Secretary. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona on Friday backed off his proposal to create a new grant that was seen as encouraging the teaching of critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Yes, not only teach that all whites are racist, but then that the country was founded on racism and a pack of lies, and an article that's been proven to be a pack of lies. That even the quote-unquote journalists who wrote it admitted that it was a pack of lies. Cardona's decision came after the department received more than 35,000 comments on the proposed grants, and most of the comments were objecting to the grants to promote teaching U.S. history through the prism of race and highlighting the impact of slavery. Boy, that's a nice way of describing CRT. That really is a nice way, teaching U.S. history through the prism of race and highlighting the impact of slavery. Now, again, I went to school, graduated in 1978. We spent a lot of time discussing the impact of slavery on the country. We learned about slavery. We had mock-ups of the slave boats. We had mock-ups of the auctions of slavery. We read articles written at the time about slavery. We spent a good deal of time on that ugly portion of American history, that ugly facet of American history on slavery. And it was dealt even-handedly. We weren't taught that, well, because somebody who was white did this evil thing 200 years ago, that we're guilty of it today, that we need to make up for what happened 200 years ago. No, what we were taught was that this was the prevailing attitude by a lot of people 200 years ago, and it was wrong. It was wrong then, and it would be wrong now. We were taught under the Martin Luther King idea, judge a man by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That's what we were taught. We weren't taught to look at somebody's skin color first in judging them. We were taught to look at how the person acted, what type of person they were. That's what we were taught. But that's not what these the CRT and the 1619 Project want to be taught. That is not what these people want taught today. In a blog post, Cardona announced that the department would go forward with its creation of new federal grants, but the grants would not require classwork based on critical race theory or the 1619 Project. In the grant proposal, as an example of what should be taught to receive the grant, the department cited the New York Times 1619 Project, which reframed American history with slavery and racism as a centerpiece of the American experience. Cardona insisted the grants never dictate what should be taught, but the grant would still seek to improve the quality of U.S. history and civic lessons. Yeah, I am really wondering what you are going to consider as an improvement, quote unquote, of U.S. history and civics. Are you actually going to teach that while slavery was wrong, and it would be, yeah, slavery was fan fiction. You're right, Becca. I was taught that even blacks owned slaves. And we were taught back then that slavery was still ongoing in many countries in the Middle East and Africa, that slavery was still practiced. We were taught that slavery at the time, the slaves were sold to the slave merchants by other blacks in Africa. Sean, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I'm not going to disagree with you. As Monkey has said, and other people have said, during the 70s and 80s, we went a long way to eradicating racism in the United States. We've gone a long way. Interracial marriages were up. Even TV shows, The Jeffersons had an interracial couple as part of the main cast. George Jefferson's son married a white woman, well, a half white, half black woman. Their neighbors that Jefferson spent a lot of time with was a black and white couple. So, there was a lot of stuff happening in the social area to help get us past the racism of the early 1900s, early to mid 1900s. How many of y'all remember Coke? I'd like to buy the world a Coke. Yeah, George was a bigot, or like Archie Bunker was, just on the other side of the coin. But they were good shows. They were funny shows. They made fun of the racists and the racist attitudes and the bigoted attitudes. But they made fun of it in a way that it wasn't a preachy. And it wasn't, smacking your face. Now it's all whites are racist, all whites have privilege, all whites this, all whites that. And poor old black little old me, multimillionaire, King James LeBron Papui. I'm not going to spit in my own house, but yeah, I need to go get a swig of Listerine to wash that taste out of my mouth, mentioning that guy's name. But, to say that a multimillionaire or millionaire black man or woman is more oppressed than a homeless white man or woman is ridiculous. But that's what they want you to believe. No. But that's what these idiots want us to believe. That's not what we're doing. That's not it. But see, the Democrats want us to believe and forget things. Don't forget, the Democrats really want us to forget a bunch of stuff. And I've talked about it. And I really should have made up a video, which I may go back and do it anyway. But Jim Jordan released a video to remind us of what happened just in the past 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years of different things that have gone on. And I don't know if y'all seen this or not.
There are many people out there who have not given up on seeing Hillary Clinton in the White House.
I have an objection.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia.
Mr. President, I object to the votes from the state of Wisconsin.
There is circumstantial evidence of collusion.
I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina.
Mr. President, I object.
You're a member of the judiciary. Do you believe the president right now has been an agent of the Russians?
Yes, I think there's more evidence than he is. Yes, and I think all the arrows point in that direction. And I haven't seen a single piece of evidence that he's not.
Mr. Swalwell there, who, what was her name? Miss Fang Fang, the Chinese spy. And Mr. Swalwell, let's not forget the preferred candidate of the Chinese government.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. Mr. President, I object on behalf of the millions of Americans.
I think there's plenty of evidence of collusion or conspiracy in plain sight.
Mr. President, I object to the votes for South Carolina. Mr. President, I object because people are horrified.
He's working on behalf of the Russians, yeah.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter?
There are many.
Whole bunch of Democrats there objecting to to an election, trying to overturn an election. Now, you don't, have we forgotten that? They want us to. They want us to forget that that ever happened. They want us to forget that they thought an election was stolen. And then they spent years investigating and trying to take down a sitting president. The same groups now that are telling you you can't question the outcome of an election pushed the questioning of an election. Now, I'm not saying, YouTube, that this last election was stolen. But what I am saying is that the same people who thought one election was stolen and were quite vocal about it are the ones saying that it's un-American, that it is wrong to question if an election is stolen, to make those accusations. So, again, here's some more hypocrisy. Just like the hypocrisy on the borders. Northern border bad, southern border good. Northern border, we got to keep everybody out. Southern border, let them all in. It's okay to question this election, but it's wrong to question that election. And I'm not saying that the Republicans are not have their own brand of hypocrisy. God damn, though, they have a ton of hypocrisy on their side. And they've got a lot of hypocrites on their side. That's why, even though I am a registered Republican, it's only because I want to be able to vote in primaries. I consider myself more of a constitutionalist and an American. And I'm going to vote for the people that are going to do the best for the country in preserving how this country. You're right, Neil. And why are they coming into the Mexico? So they can come across that southern border into the United States. That's what's going on there. Oh, yeah, they've gotten internationally known terrorists trying to cross the border in Mexico. So how many have gotten across that we didn't catch? I'd love to know how many have gotten across that border that we didn't know about. So, and the Democrats are, they're pulling even more crap here. Now, we all know that California, at least we've all read or heard of the recall efforts there in California, and they're starting to line up for a special election. And a lot of Dems in California are throwing their hat into that ring to replace Newsom. Because even though Newsom is spending millions of dollars and he's just passed a UBI of $1,000 a month to up to $1,000 a month to every person in the state. Well, the state was facing bankruptcy a year ago. until, thanks to the pandemic, they had all their debts paid off by the other 49 states. Then they turn around and Newsom pushes a UBI through of up to $1,000 per person. They're going to have a lot of people who are going to refuse to work, or they're only going to work part-time. Because I don't need to work if I'm getting $1,000. I don't need to work 40 or 50 hours a week if I'm getting $1,000 a month from the state, from the other taxpayers. And they want to know why businesses and such are moving out of the state, and why people are moving out of the state. But the sad thing is, those people moving out of the state are going to go to new states and vote for the same crap that got California the state that they're in. But Larry Elder, well, he's doing his best to get on the California ballot. Larry Elder, I mean, I've listened to Larry Elder quite often. He's a good guy to listen to. As with anybody else, I don't agree with everything what the man has to say, but he is still somebody unique that has got a lot of good ideas, and I think he would be a world of good for California. I really do. I think California needs him a lot more than they need half the people that they've got in their state right now. But again, that's my own personal opinion on that. Now, California, a year or so ago, passed a ballot that in order to get, or passed a bill, got signed into law, that in order to be on the California ballot, you have to release, I think it's 10 years worth of tax records. And they wanted to make it for all offices, including the presidency, because they're doing that because of Trump not releasing his tax records. And the law got sent to court, and the court said, "No, you can't require it of the president, but you can make it for your state offices." So now this is a really biased article. It's I'm going to say it's more of a opinion piece. Okay, it's 5 years worth of records. All right. In California, they're trying to keep Larry Elder off the ballot of the recall election. Elder turned in his election paperwork, including 5 years of tax returns, both redacted and unredacted. He then received a letter stating he wasn't qualified for the election because of problems with his tax paperwork. All right, so they went to court this morning about it. And this is Elder's statement. Before we submitted over 200 pages of 5 years of tax returns, my accountant made sure we complied with the law, as did two election law lawyers. The new law was passed by a supermajority Democrat legislature to force Trump to turn over his tax returns to get on the 2020 ballot. But the California Supreme Court struck it down unanimously for presidential, but let it stand for gubernatorial elections. They are waiting for a reply from the Secretary of State to determine why Elder was being kept off the ballot, because the letter that he got back, the only thing it was is incomplete, redacted, or unredacted income tax records were filed. But he submitted 5 years of tax returns. And he had lawyers look it over. Elder would be very popular in California. He'd be a very popular candidate. And he probably, would stand a good shot of defeating Newsom or Newsom in a re-election campaign. Oh, I've got so much dirt in my background, so much dirty laundry that I would keep the people digging for months, just trying to find it all. You know, they go through my internet streaming, they go through my internet searches and websites that I visited. Yeah, I would be. That would be bad news. Now I can't. I accidentally dropped the tab that had a much better article on this, which I'm sorry I did. But it went into a lot more depth about what's going on here and how the Secretary of State has refused to, up until this morning, to tell Elder what exactly was the problem with his tax records. All they keep saying all they had been saying was that, well, they were incomplete. Well, what is missing? What else are you looking for? They've refused to answer that question. Again, that's up until this morning. They went to court today to fight this, and I don't expect to see an answer to this before the end of the week, to be honest. But maybe the judge will surprise us all and make an earlier ruling. So, but that's something we need to keep an eye on as to whether or not Elder manages to get on the ballot. And then that would make a very interesting election run to see what happens there. Yeah, believe it or not, they're trying to get, trying to keep a black man down. Let's see here. You bring up a good point. Let's see here. SOS. Okay. That's interesting. You usually have a picture of them. Come on, let me copy this. Man, I tell you. Let's see. Can I pull up an image of her? Ah, yes. Okay, here is the California Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Ann Weber. So we got a black woman kicking a black man off of the ballot. That's interesting. Boy, she sure is wearing her African colors there for her official portraits. But again, it is what it is. You know, Peter Ducey, that's Steve Ducey's son. He's turning into quite the thorn in the side of Miss Psaki. I have to give Psaki credit for talking to him, for calling on him. I've got to give him credit. Before we go there, though, before we go to that, how about if we lighten the mood here for just a second? All right. This is something I saw this morning or I saw late last night that, well, I just thought was cute. Kitten sleeping underneath the Basset Hound's ears. That is about 3 different shades of cute. Oh, the beagle one. Okay. Yeah. That is a palate cleanser right there. And that's a nice palate cleanser. So can't you can't really sit here and argue with that too much. You really can't, because it's pretty. It's nice. It's cats and dogs living together. It is adorable. Our cat and our dog have a tendency to curl up with each other too. But our cat's way too big to try to get underneath his ears. But let's continue talking about Democrats and their little bit of hypocrisy that they get into. And here we go.
Misinformation and the announcement from yesterday. For how long has the administration been spying on people's Facebook profiles looking for vaccine misinformation?
All right. Now, first of all, it's not the administration themselves. It's people that civilian companies, private companies that they work with have been doing this spying for the White House. So, there's that little itty bitty line there of, keeping it from the government spying on you when it's a private company spying on doing the spying and then turning the information over to the government.
That was quite a loaded and inaccurate question, which I would refute.
How?
Well, Peter, first of all, as you know, we're in a regular touch with a range of media outlets. Let me finish. As we are in regular touch with social media platforms. This is
Yes, yeah, telling social media platforms that if you get deplatformed at one, everybody else should deplatform you. Especially if you're saying something that, well, it was a truth a year ago, it was truth 6 months ago, but all of a sudden today it's misinformation, or you claimed it to be misinformation a year ago, you claimed it to be misinformation 6 months ago, but now all of a sudden, well, yeah, Yeah, well, we may have been a bit hasty in saying that, or but then you allow these social medias, you push up the social media, to spread misinformation that you like, and not tell the whole truth on things that you don't want them to tell the whole truth on.
Publicly open information, people sharing information online, just as you are all reporting information on your news stations.
But okay, so these 12 people who you have on a list, 12 individuals, do they know that somebody at the Surgeon General's office is going through their profile?
I'm happy to get you the citation of where that comes from. There's no secret list. I will tell you that these.
Well, I mean, there's not a secret list. Well, you're right. It's not a secret list now because while you haven't released the names of quote unquote 12 people who are responsible for spreading all of the quote unquote misinformation. But you said you want to see them deplatformed. You said you want to see anybody who spreads their information deplatformed.
These are people who are sharing information on public platforms on Facebook, information that is traveling, is inaccurate. Our biggest concern here, and I frankly think it should.
Public areas. People have the First Amendment right to say what they want to say in public. All right? What part of that, they're not on a government website spouting this stuff. They're saying this on a public website.
Your biggest concern is the number of people who are dying around the country because they're getting.
How about the number of people Governor Cuomo did it? The Great Meemaw murder, Great Meemaw massacre.
Misinformation that is leading them to not take a vaccine. Young people, old people, kids.
You mean the misinformation like unless you're very old or have other issues, autoimmune issues, or extremely overweight, then you've got a 99% survivability rate.
Kids, children, this is all a lot of them are being impacted by misinformation.
The big concern, though, I think for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across.
I'm concerned about, you can be concerned about both areas there. You can be concerned about people dying and being concerned about the government spying on me as an individual from what I post on Facebook or Twitter or any place else.
The country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. That feels unlikely to me.
What I mean, it feels unlikely to you. What it is I've got the equal concern about people dying as I've got concern about the government spying on me.
You have the data to back that up. I'm happy to discuss it.
About things that are on Facebook, I looked this morning. There are videos of Dr. Fauci from 2020 before anybody had a vaccine, and he is out there saying there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. So is the administration going to contact Facebook and ask them to take that down?
And, well, you're going to love her answer.
Well, first, I think what Dr. Fauci has said himself, who's been quite public out there, is that science evolves, information evolves, and we make that available in a public way to the American people.
Exactly.
I have never seen any data to suggest that that the vaccines cause infertility. That is information that is irresponsibly traveling. Okay,
just one more. Sorry, excuse me, just one more. Okay, about the science evolving. Facebook used to block people from posting that COVID may have originated for a lab. That is something this president now admits is a possibility. So is there any concern that things you're trying to block or have taken down might someday turn out to be?
We don't take anything down. We don't block anything. Facebook and any private sector company makes decisions about what information should be on their platform. Our point is that there is information that is leading to people not taking the vaccine and people are dying as a result.
People are dying who have taken the vaccine. Am I right?
And we have a responsibility as a public health matter to raise that issue. The responsibility we all have, the government, media, platforms, public messengers, to give accurate information. Go ahead.
No, Neil, and not everything has been a complete lie. Yeah, you're right, Becca. It sounds more like publishers to me than what's the other? Right now I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, other than platformers. But no, Neil, not everything surrounding the vaccine has been a complete lie. I disagree with you. There's been a lot of good, solid information coming out. It's not all one giant conspiracy. There are issues out there. There are people who are getting the vaccine who do die. There are people who don't get the vaccine who do die. The vaccines are, even the worst of the vaccines is well over 90% effective, according to the studies that I've seen and the articles I've read. And that's going by what I've read and seen. Okay? I'm not out there personally drawing these studies. So, again, I'm not going to say everything's a lie. I'm just going to say there's been enough lies told on both sides that people need to be able to hear everything and then draw their own conclusions. Adults should be, hear everything, do their own research, talk to their own doctors. And draw their own conclusions on whether or not they want to get vaccinated. That's just my personal opinion on it. But Peter wasn't done. Peter was not done this morning. Or not this morning, but he's not done asking his questions. Now, getting President Trump out there to do it wouldn't be a bad idea. Remember, there were multitudes of Democrats and liberals saying that they would not get the jab as long as Trump was in office. As long as it was Trump's vaccine, they wouldn't get the jab. They wouldn't take it because they didn't trust it, because Trump had something to do with it. But 2 months later, a new president sits in office, and everything else is the same. It's the same vaccines. Now, oh yes, let me be first in line. Yeah, Biden's vaccine is wonderful. Da 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 da. So if you want to get people who are questioning the vaccines and whether or not to do it, why not have your political opponent come out there and say yes? If you talk it over with your doctor, get information, make up your mind. I recommend you get the jab. Why not do it? Why not reach across the aisle and ask him to do it? Or is your hatred of Orange Man bad so strong, so god awful within you that you can't do that for the greater good? Is it an embroidered invitation to pick up the phone or to have somebody on your staff contact somebody on his staff and say, hey, we think this would be a great idea. Let's join forces, even though we don't like each other, even though we stand for many different things. But one thing we do agree on is that we want to save people's lives. How about that, Miss Psaki? How about that? Or is your Orange Man Bad your BTTS, your Trump TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, so ingrained into you that you can't do that. You can't even acknowledge that that might be a good idea. I didn't mean to start that over again. No audio on that. Oh, I'm sorry. And I closed that tab. Basically, that was Peter asking Psaki if, hey, Clockwork, how you doing this morning, Rex? That was Peter asking Psaki if anybody from the Biden White House has considered reaching out to Trump. And she said, why should we? If he wants to do one, he can. It doesn't require an embroidered invitation. So I'm sorry, I must have boomered that, and I already closed that tab, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it again. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find it again here real quick. There's that. Oh, yeah, I did find it here. All right. Oh, I got lucky. I found it real fast.
Data is that the most trusted voices are local officials.
President Trump.
All right, could you hear that one? Rex, my brain is boomering all the time anyway. Some days I feel like I'm only running on 5 of the 8 cylinders.
And say, I need your help. Let's cut a PSA and tell people to go do it?
Well, first, I would say that what we've seen in our data is that the most trusted voices are local officials, doctors, medical experts, civic leaders, clergy from time to time. And that is where we've really invested.
And there are people that would trust Trump's voice if they got involved in this. Why not reach across and ask them? Why not ask them?
Our funding and our resources. We've seen almost every former president play a role in putting out a PSA, making sure people understood in the country that the vaccine is safe and effective.
Now remember, there are plenty of Democrats who said, there were more Democrats than Republicans who were saying that they didn't trust the vaccine because it was created under Trump. Operation Warp Speed. Remember that?
Effective. We don't believe that requires an embroidered invitation to be a part of. But certainly any role of anyone who has a platform where they can provide information to the public that the vaccine is safe, it is effective. We don't see this as a political issue. We'd certainly welcome that.
There we go. Hey, morning, Shio. How's it going? Well, I'm going to have one more for you here. I'm sorry, but Saki really had a lot of stuff going on here. Now, let me, make sure I got that and that. All right. We know that, and since Beck is here, no, the vaccine isn't a cure, but it is safe. Well, it's reasonably safe. And since Beck is here, we're going to talk about, which I'd already planned to anyway, about some of her state legislators. And a little Sakiitis here.
Experts. Do officials here wish that those Texas Democrats would have been more careful and taken more precautions, like wearing masks on the flight here?
Again, I don't think I'm going to be in a position here to assess what safety precautions they may or may not have.
Well, why not? You've been pretty bold in your other statements about what should and shouldn't have been said by people, by what they've done. You got no problem being critical of other things. So why shouldn't you be taking a shot at these legislators who decided to leave the state?
Taken. Obviously, these individuals were out there trying to elevate the issue of an individual's right to vote.
No, they're running away from doing their job. There was plenty of people elevating the issue of the right to vote. These people were running away from doing their job because like the Republicans in the House and the Senate, they know that they're going to lose the majority. Their position is going to lose most of the time because they're being outvoted.
We of course hope everybody abides by public health guidelines. That's what we certainly recommend. But the vice president, what's important for everybody to know is that the vice president was tested. She, of course, takes these precautions seriously, and we would follow any advice our public health officials give us.
And can you tell us anything else about the nature of her trip to Walter Reed yesterday?
Yes, she was. It was a visit that was scheduled for several weeks, long before the visit of the Texas legislature.
You know, you're saying that was scheduled several weeks ago, but the articles I read yesterday said her schedule didn't have anything about a visit to Walter Reed on a Sunday. Now, I'm not going to say that a vice president can't schedule an appointment on a weekend, but it's really unusual for a doctor, a routine doctor's appointment to be scheduled on a Sunday. That's more of an urgent care issue for it to happen on a Sunday, not something routine.
Legislators a routine appointment, which she had again scheduled several weeks ago. Go ahead, Kelly.
And just to button that up, she and the president been in the same room since she had that test. There's no separation of the president and the vice president.
There haven't been additional precautions taken, no.
On China, can you help?
All right, what is okay? I'm sitting here looking at the chat and I'm lost. Did I delete something that shouldn't have been deleted? Oh well. Now, y'all are used to me bashing the liberals and Democrats. And that's because I usually have a lot negative to say about them. But I will also admit that there are more than a few that I've got a lot of respect for. I disagree with their political positions. Oh, okay, I see it now. Message retracted. I disagree with a lot of these people's political positions. However, they are very honest in what they have to say and how they deal with things. They don't make excuse for something just because it's someone on their side of the aisle doing it. If they would condemn it if it was a Republican, they condemn it if it's a Democrat. And I can respect a person like that. And I'm much more likely to listen to someone like that and expressing their views than I am somebody who excuses something, well, that was Republicans doing it. Okay. But Jonathan Turley is one of the ones that I have a lot of respect for. He's a sharp man, and I follow him both. I follow him every way I can follow him. Oh well, thank you, Mash. I'm glad you're liking the stream. I'm glad I'm keeping you entertained. That's good. I like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Jonathan Turley is one of the people that I've got a lot of respect for. And I try to read almost everything he comes out with, which can be difficult because he is a very prodigious person. He puts a lot of stuff out. He's very, and being a lawyer and a professor of law, he can get quite wordy. But he doesn't get verbose. He doesn't try to write over your head. And I appreciate that. And this is an article from July 20th, that he brought out here this morning. And he's bringing up Hannah Jones, the author of the 1619 Project. How UNC rescinded the offer, then extended the offer for her to be a professor there. And at first it was to be tenure, and then they took it away because of really a serious backlash. Then offered it again. And then how Hannah Jones accepted that offer, then changed her mind, and took a job at Howard University, a UBC, a historically black college. The opposition to Jones was based on the historical errors in her 1619 projects and criticism over biased journalism. Now Hannah Jones is removing any doubt about her view of journalism. She's declared that all journalism is activism. Now, today, there have always been activist journalists. There's always been that guy or gal who was after a particular individual. There's always been that activist, that journalist who did not want, or who did not want to see a certain politician remain in office, or they saw great social ill that they were working to correct. And a lot of the changes that this country underwent was brought about by journalists of different stripes, bringing out the ills to the nation as a whole. But journalism at its root had always been about the 5 W's and the H. Who, what, when, where, and how. Who did it? When did they do it? Where did they do it? And how did they do it? That is what journalism was about. But now she is saying that all journalism is activism. Hannah Jones told CBS News that journalists now have set aside notions of neutrality, which is true. They are no longer neutral. When you look at the model of the Washington Post, right, democracy dies in darkness. That's not a neutral position. Okay. But our methods of reporting have to be objective. We have to be fair and accurate. And I don't know how you can be fair and accurate if you pretend publicly you have no feelings about something, which you clearly do. You can have feelings about something and still be fair and accurate. You can present both sides of the story fairly, both sides of an issue fairly. You can present both sides accurately. And just because you agree with one side more than the other does not prevent you from being accurate in your reporting. Reporters are now claiming greater and greater license to frame news to illustrate the truth as they see it. They give a nod to the fairness, but note they have to tell the truth and about society and politics as they see it. They then seek to frame rather than report the news. Hannah Jones is a great example how this new journalism becomes raw advocacy. And he's right. He is right. Yeah, they say, well, we're being fair, but they're not, they're reporting things as they see it. And if they don't see the other side, then they don't report on the other side. Okay, sorry, you didn't need to hear that. Getting back to when I went through a journalism class. The instructor for that class, his blue pencil was sharp and quite often used. And anything that was not, that we in our classroom settings or on our in-house programming that we did, and everything had to pass through his desk first. And if you couldn't show that you're being accurate and fair in your reporting, it got blue penciled or handed back to you with the big X through it, meaning that it was not going to go on the air. And because it wasn't fair, it wasn't right, it wasn't accurate. It only presented one side of the story. Now, there were a few times we did articles of like, this week we're going to look at, or today we're going to look at this side of the story. And then we're going to present the other side tomorrow. Then on the third day, there would be a third program that would show a condensed view of both sides, comparing both sides of that issue. Now, that was the type of reporting he loved. That you did give both sides a fair shot, regardless of your personal opinion. And that's how articles should have been done. That's how they should be done. That's how they should be done today. However, writers, editors, commentators, and even academics have embraced rising calls for censorship and speech controls, including President-elect Joe Biden and his key advisors. Even journalists are leading attacks on free speech and free press. Bias is now treated as something that is natural and motivating. Lauren Wolf, the recently fired freelance editor for the New York Times, has not only gone public to defend her pro-Biden tweet, but published a piece entitled, "I'm a biased journalist and I'm okay with that." Well, if you're a biased journalist, you're no longer a journalist. You are now a commentator. A journalist is somebody, all right, and if you've got a problem with that, then you got a problem. Then either you're going to be acknowledged that you're a commentator, or you're going to say that Sean Hannity is a reporter. You can't have it both ways. Because what you are then doing under your guise of journalism is no different than what Sean Hannity does on his show. It's no different than what I do here. No different than what anybody else does. That comments on what's going on. So you're either a journalist, and a biased journalist is just, in my opinion, nothing more than another word for commentator. The Stanford journalism professor, Ted Glaser, insisted that journalism need to free itself of this notion of objectivity to develop a sense of social justice. Really? You can't be objective and say that things are wrong, and here's how they're wrong? Yes, you can be objective and still say that something is wrong. He rejected the notion that journalism is based on objectivity and said that he views journalists as activists because journalism at its best, and indeed history at its best, is all about morality. Whose morality? Your morality or my morality? The morality of the Hindu, the morality of the atheist, the morality of an Islamist. Whose morality are we talking about? Are we going to talk about the hardcore hell and damnation Christian? Or are we going to talk about the more looser forms of Christianity? Just who are you going to say has the morality that is necessary, that should be the standard? Thus, journalists need to be overt and candid advocates for social justice. And it's hard to do that under the constraints of objectivity. That's right. It should be impossible to do it under the constraints of objectivity. If objectivity is stopping you from doing what your morality tells you what your morality is, then maybe you need to look at what your morality is. Maybe that is the problem, not being objective. This is the problem I have with today's journalists. Last night, I tried to watch the news with the wife. The wife really wanted to watch the news. And I sat there. And a year or so ago, I'll be 2 years here, my boss has bought me a bottle of the Sinatra Jack Daniels, Sinatra Select. And at the time, that was like a $150 bottle of whiskey. And I was sitting back enjoying that. Then she turned on the news. So I really tried to concentrate on enjoying the wonderful flavors and notes and everything else of this wonderful bottle of whiskey or glass of whiskey I had in front of me. But unfortunately, I've got ears. And I could hear what was being said. And I had to set down my tumbler, get up and walk out of the room. Because I couldn't enjoy it because of what was being said on the news. Then it happened again this morning. Then this morning I'm sitting there drinking a cup of coffee. I'm just waking up. And I woke up to a local newscaster, displaying their own personal morality about an issue here locally. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And then I saw this article by Jonathan Turley. And it's like, this is something that, it was meant for me to talk about this. It was meant for me to bring this up. If the journalist is going to sit there and put their own personal morality out there as the standard that everything needs to be judged by, then I've got the right to judge that morality. I've got that right to judge that individual as a person against my own morality without being objective. But then that would be bringing it down to their level. And Lord knows, I try hard not to bring my personal religious beliefs into my discussions, because I am a strong believer in having a secular government, a government that is not ran by religion. For the same reason that I don't like seeing politicians, as a Republican, I'm going to do this to the Senate, this Senate Democrats. Well, in order to keep the Republicans from stopping our bills from going through, we're going to take away the filibuster. Or the Democrats. Well, because the Republicans are stopping our judges from getting through, we're going to make it a simple majority. Or the Republicans. Well, because the Democrats made it a simple majority on the judges, we're going to take that up to the Supreme Court so that we can get the judges on the Supreme Court that we want. Well, none of them seem to think about what's going to happen the next election or two when they're no longer the party in power. They don't have that majority. And now you've got people like Perez, who's going to be sitting on the appellate bench, that has never been a judge, has always been a very liberal activist. And she's going to be sitting on federal courts of appeals. And for all she's sitting there claiming that, well, I have to go by this and that, I have to go by prior rulings, I have to go by what the Supreme Court has said, yada, yada, yada. You know darn well that she's going to push her own personal agenda as much as she possibly can. Rex, you're right. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. But that's a dirty game. And I don't like that. I'm not so naive as to think it can't happen and it shouldn't happen. But can't I at least say that, God, I hate having to go to that level to get the game to accomplish what I believe needs to be accomplished? That playing games like that, it hurts our country. And just because one side is doing it doesn't make it right that the other side does it. I find it extremely distasteful to do that. Are my hands clean? No. My hands aren't clean. Monkey and I went around and around and around about this. And him saying, well, I have my standards and that he's got his standards and his own morality that he lives up to. And then about a year and a half later, after he said that, he turned around and used my exact argument that I said. That sometimes you do have to fight fire with fire and get down in that mud pit with that other side and do to them as they've been doing unto you. That we've all got, there are no clean hands here. There really aren't. I personally don't like it. I prefer my politics to be clean and above board. I don't like disgusting politics. I really don't. And when I was a child, one of the preachers we had, he used to compare your conscience to a box with very sharp corners on it. And every time you did something wrong, those sharp corners of your conscience rubbed against you and made you feel bad about it. But the more you did that thing wrong, the less your conscience bothered you about it because you rounded off those sharp corners. And pretty soon you could do that and not even do that same thing and it would not bother you because you had taken that very sharp corner and rubbed it smooth and made it round. And the more things you did that way, the more you rubbed those corners of your conscience off, soon your conscience was no more than a smooth billiard ball, a cue ball there. And nothing you did laid on your conscience as being wrong. Because you did so much wrong throughout that now it doesn't bother you to do it anymore. Because you've managed to convince your conscience that it was okay. And that's the way I look about this in politics and in journalism. You know, you've convinced yourself that it's okay not to be objective. You've convinced yourself it's okay to pull these dirty tricks. You've convinced yourself that in order to get this accomplished, you have to do this nasty, dirty thing. And that is okay because it's for the greater good. But who's greater good? I mean, now we're having to, you're looking at the judgment. All right. Whose judgment is so great and so perfect that we can throw away the objectivity and our morality? I'm sorry, but mine isn't. I don't have that objectivity. I don't have that judgment. I don't have that perfect morality. And I don't think anybody else, if we looked at it honestly, would say that they do. But this is what so angers me about journalists, so-called journalists, and the morning news, the evening news, our newspapers. They've now decided that they don't have to be objective because for the greater good, according to their morality, they're willing not to present things fairly, not to be objective, not to have a standard that they live up to, whether they like it or not. And that's that mob mentality now. Now you've got nothing but that mob mentality running through you. And again, this is just me sitting here spouting off my own opinion. And if somebody wants to disagree with me, please, let me know. And if we can arrange it, we'll talk and present your side as to why you think I'm wrong. I would love to have that discussion. But as far as I can tell, we need to have objectivity in our reporting. We need to have honest reporting that tells both sides of the story so that the public in this country can make informed decisions. And that's what this is all coming down to. We need to have a well-informed public to make the decisions, to let our representatives in Congresses, in committees, in our state legislature. Rex, you're right. You're absolutely right there. Having been in the military, I do have my share of blood on my hands. Some of the pilots I helped train have killed other people. Some of the mechanics I helped train have fixed the planes and got the planes ready to go that were used to kill people. And I acknowledge that. Did I personally kill anyone? Did I personally harm someone in that respect? No. But my actions enabled someone else to do it. But these were actions that we all have to make our own peace with. And I can't find a way of equating military service with reporters. I can't do it. I can't. And if you think you can show me how that can happen, then I'd be more than glad to listen to it. Because I may even be easily convinced on it. Because I've never considered, it's been a long time since I considered it that way. But we need to look at this stuff. We need to see what's going on. But we need to be a well-informed public. We need to have and when we can't have that informed public when half the information is being kept away from us because, well, it doesn't fit the current narrative that the government wants to put out. And just like I will no longer say something is quote unquote government funded, I'm going to start using the term taxpayer funded because that's the truth there. I'm not going to call these people in government our leaders. They're not our leaders. They're our representatives. They were sent there to represent us in making decisions. And if they're not representing us correctly, we need to get them out of office. We need to vote them out of office. But we can't do that as long as people are not being able to hear more than one side of an issue. As long as only one side of an issue is getting the plaudits from the media, that's the side that's always going to win. And we've seen this happen. We've seen, people who are with that other side, the side that is getting the laudatory comments about, all of a sudden they say something that, is slightly out of step. And next thing you know, they're no longer in that group. Because they said they had exhibited wrong thinking. They had the wrong morality on a issue. And then they can never go back. Once you've been kicked out, you've been kicked out of that group forever. You can't get back. The woman that wrote the Harry Potter series, she was looked up to. She was held up as an example. She made millions of dollars. She had all the right positions. She said all the right things. And then all of a sudden she said something that wasn't the right thing. Nobody wanted to listen to what brought her to her thinking on that position. It was, you said something wrong, we don't like, you're out of here. And regardless of anything right that she has said since then, she's gone. She's no longer one of them. Now, she's not one of the other side either, because she doesn't want to belong to that other side because they don't agree with her. Rex, I've changed my mind on so many things, it's not funny. Good morning, Mr. Scott. Glad to see you. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to look at. There's a lot of things that we need more objectivity on. We need to hear more facts on. We need to see what the other side thinks, and have that equally reported. But as long as our reporters, our journalists are free to use their own personal morality to determine what's right or wrong. And remember, these groups are just like any other group. All right, you get that reporter. Let's look at Jim Acosta. Oh my God, Jim Acosta, he can do no wrong. He retweets, and he is, orange man bad to the core. Trump lives in this man's mind rent free. And he is well loved. His own personal morality is the morality of preference, of choice right now. It's making him millions of dollars until he says something that doesn't make him millions of dollars. But anybody who disagrees with him right now will no longer be in the N Club. And once that reporter is out of that N Club, they're not going to be able to have their side. So they're not going to be able to say their piece. It's only going to be that one side ever presented. And allowing a journalist to be that way it really does spell the end of our democracy, of our representative democracy. It does. Because then at that point, we're allowing this small group of people, in conjunction with another small group of people who've been elected. These are the people, the journalists are the people who are going to determine who gets elected. Because person A's got all the right talking points, person B's got the wrong talking points. And remember, as soon as Trump got elected, what was one of the things CNN said? Zucker, what was one of the things he said? We gave Trump too much airtime. We thought we were hurting him. Instead, we helped him. We'll not air all of his speeches anymore. Remember that? He actually went out in public and said that they helped him by broadcasting his speeches. Well, he was a political candidate. Of course you should have broadcasted his speeches. Let him get his word out there, his ideas out there, because he was one of the people running to get voted on. That's your job as a reporter, as a news station, is to allow the news and what candidates have to say to get out there, not just the candidates that you like. I mean, y'all did your damnedest by blaming all the riots that happened by the left wing at Trump's rallies, blaming those all on Trump, rather than on the lefties that were actually out there causing the trouble. You tried your best, but what Trump had to say came through loud and clear to enough people that he got elected. And then you spent the next 4 years trying to get him unelected. As you can tell, I've got a real bone to pick with journalism and with journalists. I've got very little good to say with them. There's a book by Goldberg written back after the Clinton impeachment. He was a CBS reporter. I believe he'd also worked for CNN. Excellent book on bias. And to read that book, then you would think he was writing about what is going on today. But what was happening back then was mild compared to what's going on today. And if we want to look at books, there's a series of books written by Terry Goodkind, The Sword of Truth. It's a fantasy book, adult book. Very adult book. I mean, torture, rape, sex, murder. A lot of that's in there. But one book, I believe it's called The Soul of Fire. I had it. I had it bookmarked at one time. And of his individual books. And let me see if I can find it here real quick. Come on, open up. Okay, it was before Stone of Tears. It was after his Faith of the Fallen. So it had to be the Stone of Tears. Could have swore it was the Soul of Fire, though. Anyway, it's telling a story about a state, a city-state, a small country that at one time the Hakuran people were very mean and almost slave ownerish to another group of people. And this first group, the vast majority had red hair and freckles. And the other group had black hair. That's the only real difference. Physical difference between the two groups. And then sometime in the past, in the more recent past, there was an uprising, and those who were the masters then became the servants. And every week they had to go to classes given by the former servant group that were nothing more than you need to feel bad for what your ancestors did, because your ancestors, the men were rapists and the women, were this, they were evil, and you're bearing the sins of your fathers. Men weren't only very few men were allowed to join the military. The military was solely a female organization. And they all manned these giant drums that magically protected their country. But if you sat there and you start reading through it, this is what's going on with the 1619 project in CRT. Is they're trying to hold the white people today guilty for the sins of our ancestors. And not all of our ancestors, just the few select bad ones. Just the few select bad ones. But all of us today are guilty for it because of no other reason than the color of our skin. And the journalists are pushing this. The journalists agree with this because they see that as a way of fulfilling their own personal morality. Now, I've gotten way, way, way off topic, off of where I was at, but that's what happens with me. Is I start one way and I take weird paths. My mind takes weird paths. But it's been 2.5 hours. But like I said, this weekend I had a good weekend. I hope everybody else did too. Yesterday, after I woke up yesterday afternoon, I did so much cooking this weekend. My wife does not have to cook all week. I made up I bought 2 big packets of chicken wings. And not thinking about it, I counted the wings in each packet, and each packet had 10 whole wings or 20 whole wings in it. I'm sitting there going, man, that's not going to be enough. So I bought 2 of them. Well, I wasn't thinking that 20 whole wings, once you get them divided up, your flats and your drums, your drumettes, that's now 40. So I bought 2 packets of these things. So I had 80 segments of wings to cook up. So I did that. Now I use a double fry method, which uses 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part flour. And then you fry them for 4 minutes, and you pull them out. Let them. You fry them up for 4 to 6 minutes. Then you pull them out, let them cool. Then you fry them again for another 4 to 6 minutes. So you want to talk about a crunch. It's amazing the crunch that you get, and the batter is really super light. It's really good. So, but what I want to do this next time, my wife, I wanted chicken wings, but I didn't want the store-bought wings where all heat and eat wings. I mean, they're okay, but they're nothing special to them. But this next time I do this up, I'm going to do I want to add crushed. I want to add some crushed red peppers. I want to replace some of the water with the juice from a jar of jalapenos, and add a little brown sugar to the batter. So I got sweet and heat in the batter itself. But I'm going to have to try it to see if it works. If the batter will still come out nice and crunchy and crispy. But I did that, then I turned around and I made up pasta, and not thinking. I do a lot of things without thinking. I just do it by rote. Without thinking, though, I grabbed the recipe that I use when the dough recipe I use when I've got the kids and their family coming over, and I'm feeding 6 people. So, and then, some for my lunches, and with plenty of leftovers for my lunches, and my son to take home for his lunches, and the daughter-in-law to take home for her lunches. But I made that up for just 2 of us. So we've got 3 more meals of spaghetti sitting in the refrigerator. I've got 40 more wings sitting in the refrigerator. Oh, then I made up a chicken and rice for supper, or not chicken and rice, but a sausage and hamburger mixture with rice for supper last night. So I've got that in the refrigerator. And Sunday I made it's sort of like a biscuits and gravy, the sausage gravy, but yeah, I get a lunch, everybody else gets a lunch. But I made up a sausage gravy Sunday, and then scrambled up a half a dozen or so eggs. But I used a croissant dough and let everything cool down so that it wouldn't destroy my croissant dough. Then wrapped it up in the croissant dough like you would a oversized Hot Pocket. Then bake that off with the sausage gravy, very thick sausage gravy, scrambled egg and cheese inside. And we've got that left over too, because once again, I made twice as much as I needed to make for the two of us. I'll be making, for some reason, I can't get out of the habit of making 2 to 3 times the amount that I need to make when I cook. But yeah, that's, now when I make my pasta though, what I did this weekend when I made my pasta was I added crushed red peppers and garlic to the dough itself. So that was, and then when I ran it through the sheeter, I only took it down to 3. I didn't take it all the way down to 1. So it's a thicker, and I used a fettuccine cutter. So it was a thicker, wider noodle than what you normally get for spaghetti. Plus, it had its own bit of flavoring added to the pasta besides the sauce and such. So, but I've got 2 big Tupperware containers of that sitting in the refrigerator. So we don't have to do any more cooking for the rest of the week. It's all reheat and eat. So after I've made Becca hungry now, and it's, oh God, 2 hours and 38 minutes I've been going. Well, 4 minutes of that was Mash's video at the very beginning. And I've got to say this again. Masha Sue, she's very kind and allowing me to run her videos as an opening to my streams. If you're not subbed to watching her stuff, you really need to. Her videos are like Jack's comic book videos. They're only 2 to 4 minutes in length. So they're very short, but they're very fun videos to watch. I get a kick out of her VR stuff. Yeah, Mash is a very sweet person. She's one, and I've never gotten a chance to really talk to her other than what we do at the Lords, during Lords and such. But she's a very sweet lady, and I really appreciate her allowing me to do that because, well, I'm just too lazy to come up with opening music or anything for myself. So I just use her stuff and give her credit for it. But I really like to see people go over and sub to her and watch her stuff because it's really good. It's fun to watch. And like I said, last night, I never would have thought that I would listen to that type of music. That's not a music that I would have found myself, ever thought about myself listening to. But I like it. I can take it like she does it. And the avatars that she uses, she changes them up every video. And it's kind of fun watching which avatar she pops up with. Which one of her VR avatars she uses. So, but yeah, sub to her channel. Watch her vids. But I've got things to do. It's pushing on to, it's past 11:30. I want to thank everybody for coming out and listening to me. I appreciate it. I'd be doing this even if you weren't listening to me because I've gotten used to this. I've gotten used to being able to get out here and say what I want to say. and let my mind ramble sometimes, going all these weird directions. And I think what it is what it boils down to for me is dishonesty. It's the dishonesty in politics. It's the dishonesty in reporting. It's that dishonesty that bothers me the most. And makes me mad. We're adults. We're educated. We can handle honesty. And that means we need to be given the honesty so we can make honest decisions. I guess that's it in a nutshell. But thank you for coming out. I appreciate y'all. I like reading what you guys talk about in the side chat here. And I'll be back sometime tomorrow before I go to work. Y'all have a good day. And unfortunately for Becca, it's, she can't be with the ones she loves, but she can sure love the ones that she's with. Y'all have a good day. Bye.